So if you followed my channel for a while, then you know that I'm not just the keto guy. I'm actually more the anti-inflammation guy. Believe it or not, that's how I got my start in terms of being interested in the ketogenic diet. I was immersed in the world of inflammation. I was trying to learn all about that because I thought that was the future. And when I was super overweight, that was what I was focused on. That's what a lot of the doctors that were working with me were really focused on. They were working on reducing inflammatory markers because being overweight and being obese, that is an inflammatory condition in and of itself. So anyway, the reason that I say that is because what I'm going to break down in this video may not necessarily be ketogenic, but it's still focusing on the anti-inflammatory aspect of things. So what I've got is I've got 3 anti-inflammatory smoothies, okay, 3 different recipes. I figured I'd do a little more recipe style because it's kind of fun, and it's good for people that aren't necessarily keto and just want to learn some good healthy things. So the 3 different recipes that I've got are going to angle different ways towards inflammation. The first recipe that I'm going to talk about actually technically would be a ketogenic friendly recipe, and it's going to focus more so on digestive inflammation. The second recipe I'm going to break down is going to focus more on joint and general systemic chronic inflammation. And then the third and final smoothie that I'm going to break down is going to be all focused on brain inflammation and improving cognition. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's dive right into that. But first, you guys are tuned in to the internet's leading performance, nutrition, and fat loss channel. New videos every single Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday at 7 a.m. Pacific time, and a bunch of other videos throughout the week as well. Hit that little bell button. You can turn on notifications. That way you'll get a little ping on your phone every single time I post a video or go live. All right, so I'm going to break them down ingredient by ingredient, and then you're going to see me making it as I'm explaining this. So let's go ahead and let's dive into the first one. This first recipe is all about modulating inflammation in the digestive system. All right, now it just so happens that this is a ketogenic friendly recipe. This isn't one that I built for the keto diet. It was one that I built before I was even doing keto. So what we've gotten here is we've got coconut cream to start. Okay, the reason that I'm using coconut cream is because it has a high level of MCTs in it still, okay? So if you go with coconut milk, a lot of the MCTs are stripped out of it. We want the medium chain triglycerides because they do have a powerful effect in terms of an anti-inflammatory system within the body, okay? But the lauric acid that's also in the coconut oil that is usually in the fat of the coconut cream is actually going to help with reduction of a specific kind of gene that would normally trigger inflammation. So we have some unique stuff going on. We actually have a genetic change that's occurring as far as inflammation goes. So that stuff's very, very powerful when it comes to that, whether you're keto or not. Then we have ginger, and don't worry, I'm not going to put all that ginger in the smoothie. We're just going to put like a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons of ginger in there. And the reason that we want to use ginger is from a digestive standpoint is it inhibits something known as H. pylori. Now you've probably seen that in a lot of commercials. I think the Dannon commercials talk about it. The Dannon yogurt commercials talk about H. pylori, but it's a very specific bacteria in the gut that's a gram-negative bacteria that elicits a pretty gnarly inflammatory response throughout the body. But additionally, ginger has some really powerful ways of stopping what is called the nuclear factor kappa B pathway. It also acts upon what is called the inflammasome, which is a group of proteins that trigger different cytokine responses throughout the body. Okay, then I'm just using almond milk as the base with it. So simple almond milk, you can use coconut milk, anything like that just to allow it to actually, of course, be liquid form. If you make it with water, it's not very good. You can add a little bit of ice to make it a little bit more of a smoothie. Then I'm adding some mint into it. Okay, so the whole idea behind adding the mint into it is simply that it works on some specific genetic pathways again. We're talking specifically TRPM8. Okay, this is a very interesting pathway. So you have pain sensors within your gut. Okay, and what happens is you may not always feel pain and what's happening in your gut with digestive distress, but it's still sending a signal to your brain, unbeknownst to you, triggering inflammation. The best example that I can give on how this would work is it's like you're getting a massage and the masseuse is hitting the knot, right? The masseuse is hitting the knot in your back and it forces your whole body to tighten up, totally involuntarily, right? Well, that's happening inside your digestive system. You have these TRPM8 sensors that are triggering this response because they're getting hit with pain. You're not necessarily feeling it, but your brain is, so your whole body tightens up and has a response. So mint is very powerful at that, and that's why studies have shown that there's up to a 40% reduction in IBS symptoms simply by adding peppermint or by adding mint. Plus, it makes this one taste really darn good. Then, of course, we have avocado. The whole idea behind the avocado is simply to get the vitamin E in there, but also to have the powerful effect of lipid peroxidation halting. So lipid peroxidation is where, like, if you're on a ketogenic diet, those fats will actually oxidize. Fats that oxidize through lipid peroxidation are some of the most toxic kinds of oxidative damage that you can have occurring in your body. So we want the avocado in there, plus it makes it a nice ketogenic recipe. So add that into a blender, add some mice into the mix, boom, you've got a perfect blend that's gonna work on a ketogenic diet. You can add some stevia to it, make it taste a little bit better. Okay, this next one I want to talk about is one that's going to be good for overall systemic inflammation. Okay, this is one that you can get the ingredients at the regular grocery store, or if you wanted to, you can actually get them through a company called Smoothie Box, which is who I use for this particular video. If you've seen a lot of my videos, you know I talk about ButcherBox. So ButcherBox is the company that actually delivers meat to your doorstep cheaper than the grocery store. This is their sister company, Smoothie Box. So actually pretty cool. So using unique ingredients. So this particular one I helped them design. Okay, I wanted to come up with one that was going to be a little bit more in the way of just anti-inflammatory, but not super high in sugar, because normally when you go with smoothies, they're high in sugar. You're dealing lots of sweet things, lots of extra sugar. So what I've got in this particular one to make it super simple is I've got sweet potato. So usually you don't see sweet potato in a smoothie, but why the heck not? If it's frozen, you're preserving all the nutrients and you can rock and roll with it. So the whole idea behind the sweet potato is the cyanidin. Okay, this is really powerful when it comes down to helping this whole glutathione process. Okay, glutathione in the body is the body's inherent ability to detox. So sweet potatoes have a powerful effect on that. So you're not going to need a whole lot in the way of sweet potatoes. We're talking just a couple of cubes, and obviously it's all right here with the smoothie box here. Next thing is we're using dates as the sweetener. Now, obviously they're still somewhat high glycemic, and I'm not a big fan of fructose to begin with. But the effect of the chlorogenic acid in the dates really does kind of counteract this. The chlorogenic acid has some really powerful effects when it comes down to tumor necrosis factor 1 alpha. This is a main inflammatory modulator within the body. High levels of TNF-1 alpha mean our body is going through a high degree of systemic inflammation, like we're fighting the flu or fighting a cold. So if you lower that, your body's going to have a lot more energy. It's a very important thing to focus on. Then we have pumpkin seeds in this mix, which makes things really, really interesting too. So the whole idea behind pumpkin seeds is going to be the specific phytosterols that are in the pumpkin seeds. So we're talking about acting upon interleukin 6 here. So if you're following any kind of anti-inflammatory diet or you're intermittent fasting or anything like that, you're going to want to keep your interleukin levels lower, especially your IL-6 levels. So a very, very good component to have there. Then of course we also have ginger in the mix here. So we're still getting those same benefits I talked about in the previous recipe. Okay, we're getting the effects of nuclear factor kappa B pathway blocking, but we're also getting that elimination, or at least the inhibition, and we're also getting the inhibition of that H. pylori bacteria as well. So very powerful effect here. And lastly, we've got collagen in the mix. So the cool thing about the collagen is, of course, you're getting the wide spectrum amino acid profile that you need for the digestive benefit, but you're also getting the brain boosting effect too. So collagen has some powerful effects on the brain. I've done some videos about that. So definitely an easy way to still get a relatively low sugar smoothie in the mix. We're talking more complex things versus just super high sugar pineapple, super high sugar berries and stuff like that. You guys can actually check Smoothie Box out down in the description below. So they've got a special link there with a special discount for anyone that watches my videos. So that way, if you're not necessarily doing keto, but you're trying to live an anti-inflammatory lifestyle and you want to give them a shot, it ends up being quite a bit cheaper than going to the grocery store. They give you like everything you need for a smoothie a day and stuff like that. Again, if you're keto, maybe it's not for you, but if you're fasting, it could be for you. It could be a good way to break your fast. I just want to make sure that you give them a shot. Okay, the next one that I want to talk about is one that I call deep space. The reason that I call it deep space is because it's all super dark, deep colored fruits and veggies. So the whole idea behind this is to really boost brain health. We're talking about things like anthocyanin and stuff like that. I'm going to get down to the ingredients in a second. So this one we're using coconut milk instead, simply because we're trying to get optimal brain function here. Now, I'm a fan of almond milk, but the hard part with almond milk, you still have a small level of phytic acid, which means a small inflammatory effect that's coming from the indigestible components of the almond. Whereas coconut milk, it's a little bit easier. Plus, people with tree nut allergies can usually still handle coconut when they can't handle almonds. So we're a little bit better there. So we're going to use, I don't know, maybe a cup or so of that. You don't need a whole lot. Then we're using spinach. Now, the reason we're using spinach is because it's going to boost GABA. I sound like a broken record because I talk about this all the time, but we've got the GABA cycle and the glutamate cycle within the brain. GABA stands for gamma-aminobutyric acid. It promotes a state of relaxation and calm. Okay, when you are chilling out and you're ready to go to bed, you have a high degree of GABA. Okay, when you're activated and you're really trying to do things and you're focused, a lot of times you end up being so high in the glutamate cycle that you end up causing issues for yourself. It's a very inflammatory state to be in. You want to be skewed slightly on the GABA side so you're nice and calm and relaxed. Okay, so that's why we have the spinach there. Not to mention, of course, all the vitamins and minerals, but that's all just like kindergarten stuff. All right, we like the science, right? Next up, we've got the blueberries. The whole idea with the blueberries are the anthocyanins. So the anthocyanins in blueberries specifically promote what is called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. BDNF is like at the forefront of psychology today right now. Like everyone is talking about BDNF. It's a way to improve neuroplasticity, a way to improve the synapses and the way for our brain to actually communicate and our cells to communicate with each other in the brain and actually make new neural pathways that allow us to develop new habits. This stuff is very, very important. But in the process, it also suppresses inflammation. So this is some pretty powerful stuff. Then we have beets. Okay, now it's really hard to get beets into a smoothie because normally you'd have to roast them first. So I recommend getting them frozen. And just full disclaimer, when you get something frozen, they're flash frozen. So you usually have a lot of nutrients that are preserved in it, and they don't oxidize because they're not sitting on the store shelf all the time. So it's actually really powerful. The interesting thing about the beets is a high level of nitric oxide. Okay, those natural nitrates that are going to be in there is going to trigger a nitric oxide response. That nitric oxide response, of course, is going to deliver blood flow to the brain, which is great, but it's also going to help promote what's called ATP coupling. So it's going to be involved in the process, sort of the step 2 process of oxidative phosphorylation, so basically where the body creates energy. ATP is needed in the brain. Every time our brain is firing and we're thinking fast, like I'm using it right now and I'm doing this video, we're activating a lot of ATP. We're using ATP, and we need that activated sort of oxidative phosphorylation. So more of this ATP coupling that's coming as a result of beets could be really, really cool. And then, of course, I'm going to put a tiny bit of coconut oil in there just so I can get some MCTs because it adds to the allure of the whole brain effect. So here it is, 3 simple anti-inflammatory smoothies from a whole different angle. Have some fun with it, throw it away, don't watch it, share it with your friends, don't share it. It's all up to you because I know it's against the grain of some of the stuff that I normally do, but I wanted to share it with you. And a huge thank you to Smoothie Box for helping make this video possible, but also extending special discounts out to my fans and followers, again, down in the description below. Thank you guys very, very much. See you in the next video.